November 30th, 2022. Do you remember what happened on that Wednesday? We could say that one launch changed the world. You know those AI chatbots you already use in your daily life? It all started with the launch of ChatGPT. You're watching Olhar Digital, Brazil's largest tech community. I invite you to like, share our videos, and subscribe to our channel. That way, you help strengthen the most traditional tech journalism in the country. Today, we're going to talk about the artificial intelligence race. A race that began for the general public when OpenAI launched ChatGPT and turned a technical breakthrough into a mass phenomenon. Powerful models already existed before, but ChatGPT was the turning point because it put generative AI into the hands of millions of people in a very simple, conversational, and immediate interface. Overnight, artificial intelligence stopped being a topic restricted to labs and scientific papers and moved to the center of the strategy of the world's largest tech companies. The reaction was instantaneous. Microsoft deepened its partnership with OpenAI and helped turn artificial intelligence into a large-scale product, both in the cloud and in corporate distribution. Google, which had led much of the AI research in the previous decade, rushed to respond with Bard, announced somewhat hastily in February 2023. As we described at the time, the debut got off on the wrong foot. Right in the first demo, incorrect information came out about the discoveries of the James Webb Space Telescope. Only at the end of that year did the company introduce Gemini 1.0 as its new family of models and the unification of strategy. And branding came in February 2024 when Bard was renamed Gemini. Meta, for its part, bet on open models like Llama to prevent the future of artificial intelligence from being concentrated only on closed platforms. This move was significant because it showed that the AI race wouldn't be fought only between proprietary services. Companies and developers began to see the possibility of customizing models, running their own solutions, and reducing dependence on a few suppliers. And this front gained an important new chapter with DeepSeek. The Chinese startup had already been drawing attention with code and language models, but it became a main player for good in early 2025 when it launched DeepSeek R1. The impact was huge because it definitively showed that the AI race wouldn't be restricted to the United States and Western big tech. DeepSeek brought cheaper, open reasoning models, capable of putting pressure on prices and also the strategy of industry leaders. The first phase of this dispute was the chatbot phase. The goal was clear: to build the most convincing system to answer questions, summarize documents, write code, and sustain useful conversations for longer. The beginning was a bit more clumsy. Everyone came to understand, for example, what a so-called artificial intelligence hallucination was when it gives out wrong information. In this context, GPT-4, released in March 2023, was a technical milestone of this initial stage of the race we're describing, but with an important nuance. It was no longer a purely textual model. OpenAI itself presented it as a multimodal model, meaning it's capable of accepting text and images as input and generating text as output. The big paradigm shift came when the industry realized that the chatbot was just the beginning. In 2024, the race fully entered the phase of multimodality. The company revealed Sora at the start of that year as a model capable of generating videos from text. Shortly after, Google's Veo arrived. Back at the start of the AI era, we had videos like this. A bit bizarre, right? Today, look at what Google's Veo 3 is capable of doing, going from fantasy to realistic, including audio. This ocean, it's a force, a wild, untamed might, and she commands your awe with every break and light. I gave this example of Google Veo 3 because it's one of the market leaders. OpenAI itself canceled the Sora platform in March, even breaking a billion-dollar contract with Disney. The decision marks a shift by the company to prioritize business and coding functions. Artificial intelligence demands a lot of computing power. The market seems to have understood that choices will have to be made, as explained by Dr. Alvaro Machado Diaz, neuroscientist, futurist, and associate professor at UNIFESP.
What tends to happen is something we see in all industries. And a good one, since, well, everyone is eager to learn. And more than that, the logic of startups is a logic of growth. First of all, that is You want to grow as much as possible, your user base, markets, and everything else, precisely to argue to the next round of investors that you have much more potential, and so on. It's natural for these companies to shoot in all directions. What happens over time is that this growth-oriented venture capital, which is the guy who puts $1 billion into OpenAI, thinking about selling in the next series, right, in the next funding round for $2 billion, that money starts disappearing. And generating revenue, and specifically profiting, become more important. It's a moment when the company stops being a startup. If it's listed, then that ends completely. And in this new scenario, it's much smarter for you to specialize.
And if AI starts with chips that power data centers around the world, behind-the-scenes companies play a fundamental role. Two in particular.
The most important company in the world today is NVIDIA, without a doubt. And TSMC, much more than any other, is the company that defines the future of the artificial intelligence race. Because if TSMC stops, at this moment at least, Western progress and even the supply chain. For NVIDIA, which is the main hardware supplier, it also stops. So I'd say the two companies of the moment are companies in the hardware domain, which is an interesting thing when we see that in the media in general and among lay people. The whole discussion revolves around foundational models and companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google.
Going back a few steps, while audiovisual was developing, it was already clear that the AI race wasn't just a race for better text or for a more beautiful image. Back in May 2024, OpenAI introduced GPT-4 Omni, which brought together text, image, and voice in a more fluid and real-time experience. In that same cycle, Anthropic established itself with the Claude 3 family, launched in March 24, and later with Claude 3.5 Sonnet in June, with notable gains in productivity and programming. There, Anthropic really nailed the recipe. Google was including Gemini into more products and was preparing the transition to a stage where multimodality would stop being a differentiator and become a prerequisite. The most important move of all, however, was another. The transition from artificial intelligence that responds to artificial intelligence that actually acts. Especially during the year 2025, the race fully entered the era of artificial intelligence agents. When the main labs began to show models capable of using tools, combining multimodal inputs, researching, planning, and executing intermediate steps to complete tasks. This change redefined the role of artificial intelligence. The traditional chatbot depends on the user to transform the response into some action. The agent tries to go the whole way. Understand the goal, break down the problem, use external resources, correct the course, and deliver a result. For the average user, the difference is huge. Instead of just asking for a summary, they can ask the artificial intelligence to read several documents, compare versions, and organize the main points. And instead of requesting ideas for a spreadsheet, they can delegate the data analysis. Instead of asking for help putting together a travel itinerary, they might want the system to research options, organize steps, and refine the decisions made. The difference between a conversational AI and an agent is, in practice, the difference between receiving instructions and receiving the execution directly. This year, the advancement was materialized by an agent called OpenClaw.
What I see here are, first, two main axes, which are open source and proprietary AI. So here, we already have this dilemma about which one will be the one that lasts. Why do I say that? In principle, it seems that proprietary AI from companies, closed AI, was thriving much more, and in fact, it took off during all this time. That's what's been driving the AI race. But we've seen recently OpenClaw emerged, which at first was called CloudBot, then changed to MoltBot, and finally settled as OpenClaw, which is an agent, an agentic system that you install. Open source, distributed, anyone can run it. And that caught me by surprise. So we already have this first question. Will we see in the future, with computing, with AI becoming more efficient, being able to run on smaller machines, with tokens getting cheaper, will we see these open models enduring and becoming the standard? Will people have to run them on their computers? Or not? Will we always be needing the most advanced models, which will be the ones being produced in private companies like OpenAI, Google, and so on?
Looking at the trajectory from the launch of ChatGPT until now, the artificial intelligence race can be summarized in 3 movements. The first was the popularization of the chatbot, which put artificial intelligence at the center of digital culture. The second was the explosion of so-called multimodality, which led models to be able to see, hear, draw, and generate videos. The third and most important at this moment is the rise of AI agents, these systems that are starting to operate as digital executors, as we just explained, and not just as a mere conversation interface. Yeah.
It's a path that might happen, that might win, that might develop a lot, which would be open source, especially this agentic one that people will be able to have. An assistant that will do everything for you and will be involved in every aspect of your life. But I have many concerns about that. These AIs are going to become very powerful and very, very capable in the world. An AI agent that knows your whole life, that has the capacity to run on your computer, to develop things for you, to help you with anything else, we're going to start delegating a lot to these things, to these machines. And they'll also continue to evolve and continue to get smarter. And the point, in the end, is that we have something that's surprising, it's powerful, it delivers a lot to you, but it also has many capabilities. So it goes from a risk of being hacked. So your agent can be hacked and it knows all your passwords. And they can do silly things, either because it misunderstood a bit what you wanted to ask of it, or because another behavior is emerging there. Because we don't know how to solve the alignment problem. How can we ensure that these AIs will never be able to harm us?
But what's next? Let's start with the short term.
We have some challenges ahead of us. Will we continue to advance these AIs? Will we give them long-term memory, since that's one of the bottlenecks? Our AI, it can't have a very good long-term memory. It forgets things, it can't have coherence in space or time. So, that's a challenge. Many, many studies in that direction. Yeah, we'll have AI learning in real time. It'll be able to, because our AIs, we train them, then once they're delivered, they don't learn anymore. Right, when you're using it, it only learns in context. It no longer has the ability to change its neurons and learn new things. Will we be able to fix that, take that leap as well? These are the paths that I imagine for the coming months. And also, if it will become increasingly agentic and more capable of acting in the world, right, continuing this path that has begun.
Let's now take a step further and talk about the medium term or long term or fiction. It depends on the point of view and the bets of each person in the AI market. Artificial General Intelligence, or AGI, or AGI as you prefer, is a technology that's still theoretical, capable of performing many different types of tasks. Like a human being, it wouldn't be, in theory, limited to a specific function, like just writing text or recognizing images. In practice, it would be an artificial intelligence with broader capabilities to understand, adapt, and solve new problems. It would be a technology capable of replacing us for basically any function, and with great precision. But will it really get off the drawing board? And if so, is there a deadline for that to happen?
Yeah, we have to start thinking about this idea from the following premise. It doesn't make sense to assume that one AI will be good at everything for a purely economic reason. It's not that it's impossible, but it makes much more sense to have the so-called MO, mixture of experts. So it's many AIs packaged into one. Each of them was trained specifically for one goal, not just one AI. Whatever the mixture of experts may be, I cannot agree. We've reached artificial intelligence because I have an AI that can prove mathematical theorems, which is incredible. It can write in the style of Alvaro Machado Diaz, and I can look at the text and say, wow, I have the feeling that I wrote this article. I'm not sure, I can't tell. All of that is cool, but if it can't drive a car, it hasn't reached artificial general intelligence. If the system is incapable of looking at a room that's messy and understanding what it has to do to organize it, to make it tidy, it hasn't arrived. Therein lies the big question. AGI will still take a little while. Everyone wants to know when. Some people are talking about 2 years. Jensen Huang said it's already happened. But if we consider the real world, the curious thing is that I think the predictions that were made back at the beginning of the century at NIPS, the world's great AI technology congress, where a lot of these things emerged, remain valid, which is more or less between 2030 something and 2040. So it's still maybe a decade away, maybe 8 years, maybe something like that, for us to really have a situation where anything you can imagine, there will be an AI that will do it as well as or better than almost everyone. That's what I think we have ahead of us.
Since we already have such capable AI, and by some criteria, by some metrics, you could already say that it already does. It has capabilities above an average human. I don't know, depending on your perspective, it still gets several things wrong that an average human does. But there are other things where it's spectacular, where it's brilliant. It speaks every language. It has very deep expert knowledge that's right there in your pocket. They can solve various exams, tests, tasks, many of them, right? And it's evolving more and more. But I feel that in the end, this AI discourse, it's become kind of contaminated. And then there was also a reaction. So, yeah, I think we're moving towards a maturity, but maybe it's not so important anymore to define or have this milestone. Especially because if things continue at this level, there will come a time when there won't even be any more doubt. You know that thing? It's going to be so obvious and so clear to everyone that this discussion will have already been surpassed. People won't be discussing if it's reached artificial general intelligence. They'll be discussing if it's already super intelligent. And in some aspects, it's already super intelligent today.
With or without artificial general intelligence, there's already an impact on the job market. In January, for example, during the World Economic Forum in Davos, the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, warned that the technology should cause a profound transformation in the global job market with an even greater impact on younger workers. Meta is one of the best examples of this impact that we've been following in the news. On the website olyardigital.com.br, readers have seen this frequently. As we've been reporting, Mark Zuckerberg's company is looking at cuts that could reach 20% of its workforce. Owner of Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, the big tech is trying to offset the high investments in artificial intelligence infrastructure. At the same time, it imagines it will have efficiency gains with the technology. The news of layoffs ended up becoming something quite common in this market. According to the platform layoffs.fyi, which monitors layoffs in the tech sector, this year alone there have been over 40,000 dismissals in 70 companies. Last year there were 124,000, in 2024 152,000. In 2023, in the post-pandemic context, it's worth remembering more than 260,000.
Today's AI is already a good intern for various tasks. So many companies that would hire interns, they hire, right, every year? You have that wave where you are going to hire new interns or workers or junior level employees. They don't hire them. No, we have AI now, so I don't need to hire anymore. So you're taking away. You're not necessarily firing people, although some sectors are already doing that. But anyway, let's say in most cases you're not firing people, you're just not hiring new ones. And if you don't hire interns and juniors, they'll never become mid-level or senior employees. And when those mid-level and senior employees start to retire or move on and move up the ladder, you won't have anyone to fill those intermediate positions. And what's going to fill them is AI, which will keep getting better. So maybe it's already happening, this silent replacement of jobs.
And if you like this content, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, share this video on your social media, and other Olhar Digital content, because that's how you help strengthen our community, the community of those who know the most about technology in Brazil. Olhar Digital, the future happens here first.